In the 7th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus is coming to the end of his 3 chapters long Sermon on the Mount when he begins to talk to us about judging. And he gives what many people consider to be the best advice one could get when we're tempted to give another person the side eye. He says, "Why do you see the splinter that's in your sister or your brother's eye, but you don't notice the log that's in your own? How can you say to them, 'Let me take the splinter out of your eye,' when you don't see that there's a log in your own? You deceive yourself. First, take the log out of your own eye, then you'll see clearly to take the splinter out of your sister's or your brother's eye." For Christians, this has always served as a reminder to us that if we want to be effective proclaimers of the gospel, we have to make sure that we're trying to live up to the gospel ourselves. For over a year now, our nation has been involved in discussions about racism and white privilege at a level that I've never experienced before. These terms, racism, white privilege, these are common things we say now in everyday conversation. I have a lot of friends who have been laboring for years to get folks to a place where we begin wrestling earnestly with the fact that white cultural dominance has prevented our nation from being the great one we want it to be. I'm ashamed that it's taken us this long to begin what appears to be a serious and sustained conversation about dismantling racism and white privilege in our communities. As the church, we've been involved in this push for this conversation. We've preached sermons, we've written blog posts and articles, we've marched in rallies, we've stood with the protesters in Ferguson and Baltimore, we've been involved in community organizing, and all of this is good, and all of this is right, and all of this is faithful. But if we're honest, a lot of what we've said and done feels a lot like what Jesus was talking about. If we're honest, we've gotten caught up in telling the world about the splinter in its eye, and we've completely ignored the log in our own. Since last January, the staff and commissioners of the Synod of Mid-America have been working to discern and plan ways that we, ourselves, can begin addressing the racism and white privilege inherent in our own system. You see, the Presbyterian Church is 95% white, and the Synod of Mid-America, it's even more so. We have a pretty big log in our eye. And so this past October, our Synod Assembly took what we intend to be the first of several steps towards becoming a more just community. I'm very pleased to announce to you that in 2016, the Synod of Mid-America will launch the Jesse C. Swanigan Fellowship for executive leadership of women and men of color. Now, like much other of the pastoral fellowships in existence in our church, the purpose of this initiative is to be the entry point of a pipeline that will result in more and more women and men of color serving in executive leadership in our denomination. The synods of the Presbyterian Church have historically been a place where women and men of color have found their gifts and skills celebrated and utilized. However, many of these leaders have been lifted up due to their own initiative and commitment as volunteers. These women and men have faithfully fulfilled their ordination promise to serve in the higher councils of the church, yet the percentage and number of these leaders in paid executive leadership has remained virtually stagnant. There is little significant transfer from volunteer leadership to paid leadership. Our Synod Assembly is convinced that this is an area where we can make an impact. They believe that our work and our governance is truly innovative and effective, and that we should unreservedly bring our creative and material resources to bear in nurturing, supporting, and advocating for women and men of color to enter the ranks of executive leadership in greater numbers. This fellowship is named for one of our own. Ruling Elder Mr. Jesse C. Swanigan is one of those great leaders who has volunteered his gifts and skills for the betterment of our church, including as moderator of the Synod of Mid-America and past president and treasurer of the National Black Presbyterian Caucus. Mr. Swanigan is the embodiment of who we hope our fellows will become. Over the course of the next 2 years, the participants in the Swanigan Fellowship will work closely with our Synod staff in all areas of its life and work. They will help us plan and implement various programs, our programs for new pastors, our week-long Sabbath program for actively serving pastors and commissioned ruling elders. They will visit presbyteries with us. They will support our presbytery executives and our stated clerks, and they'll help us to staff our presbytery executive searches. They will join us in developing new curriculum for our Theocademy series. They will help us support our assembly in its governance work. And we're also committed to the education and formation of these leaders. During the 2 years that they're with us, we are going to place them in 3 different leadership training programs. MALT's Transitional Executive Training, McCormick Seminary's Certificate in Executive Leadership Program, and the Racial Ethnic Leadership Institute of the Presbyterian Mission Agency. Also, during their second year with us, we're going to arrange for our fellows to just serve our office half-time and then serve in one of our presbyteries the other half of the time. Over the next couple of months, we're going to make a lot more information about this fellowship available, and we're going to begin receiving and reviewing applications beginning the first week of January. It's our intention that the very first Swanigan Fellow will be in place to join us at next summer's General Assembly. In the meantime, if you have any questions or helpful suggestions, please send us an email at fellowship@synodma.org. We'll answer and respond to them as best as we can. But what we really need from you right now is to please begin praying for whoever our new Swanigan Fellows will be. Please share this information with anybody that you think will be interested. We need your help to get the word out. The Synod of Mid-America wants to be a part of helping our nation dismantle racism and white privilege, but we need to take the log out of our own eye first, and we covet your help in doing that. Peace be with you.